Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Canton. Today is Monday, August 11th, 2025. Today is day 675. 675 days of atrocities on the Gaza Strip, of hostages being held who were taken captive on October 7th, 2023. The update this morning, because of the time difference, I'm still in Amman, Jordan. I'm recording this mid-morning, local Amman time, because I'm traveling most of the day today. And so much of the news that I'm sharing is from over the weekend, rather than just the last 24 hours. Between Saturday and Sunday, Israeli fire killed 59 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. An additional 363 were injured over that 24-hour period of time. The Ministry of Health reported that 35 people between Saturday and Sunday were killed while trying to obtain humanitarian aid. According to the ministry, since October 7th, there were 61,430 Palestinian residents have been killed and 153,213 have been wounded. Now, that number, again, is a vast most people believe that number is a conservative number of how many people have been killed in the last 20 plus months. Earlier on Sunday, yesterday, the Ministry of Gaza announced that 5 people died of hunger and malnutrition, including 2 children. Overall, the number of fatalities from malnutrition since October 2023 is 217. 217 people have died of hunger or starvation or malnutrition, and that number includes 100 children. OSHA, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, reported that more than 500 humanitarian workers have been killed. According to international law, not only is the civilian population to be protected, but humanitarian sites, medical facilities, schools, but humanitarian workers are protected or should be by international law. That number is now more than 500, and it includes 167 women. The head of office in Geneva said that statistic is a grim milestone. The Israeli military announced that Air Force planes attacked and destroyed a launch site in Shujaiya, from which 2 rockets were fired towards Gaza border communities on Saturday. Islamic Jihad had claimed responsibility for that rocket fire. We're still reeling from the news of the Security Cabinet decision in Israel to invade and take over Gaza City that was made late last week. Even many people within the Israeli security establishment oppose this move, sometimes for tactical reasons rather than moral ones. They say that the taking over of Gaza City will not only drain the Israeli army, but that it will be difficult to sustain financially and in terms of the human cost with the Israeli army and military. But they also say that it will put the lives of the remaining Israeli captives in Gaza at risk. Last week, Egypt said that the hostages would be at risk of execution if there is an invasion of Gaza City. Initially, the head of IDF said that could take 3 weeks. Netanyahu and the cabinet said that that's too long. So we'll see what comes in the days ahead. Many are grieving the death of an additional reporter in Gaza. The IDF said that they killed the Al Jazeera reporter Anas al-Sharif during a military strike on Gaza City. The military statement said al-Sharif served as the head of a terrorist cell in the Hamas organization and was responsible for advancing rocket attacks against Israeli civilians and IDF troops. Hamas called al-Sharif's death a barbaric crime that surpasses all limits of fascism and criminality. Just more on Anas al-Sharif. Al Jazeera reported on that as well. And many have condemned that strike. Journalists are another protected class in the Gaza Strip. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu presented his vision for a post-war Gaza in a press conference to foreign media on Sunday and clarified that neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority would control Gaza after the war. And Netanyahu did say he spoke with Trump and discussed the plan to take over central Gaza. He announced that on Saturday. The 2 discussed plans that Netanyahu presented to expand the fighting in Gaza and to take over Hamas strongholds. Opposition leader in Israel, Yair Lapid, said that Netanyahu's plan means that hostages and soldiers will die and that the economy will crash. He presented a plan saying that the attacks that are planned will hurt living hostages. The meaning of what Netanyahu presented today is that hostages will die, soldiers will die, and the economy will break apart and our international standing will crash. We need to make a deal, bring all the hostages home and finish the war. Benny Gantz, who's the leader of Blue and White, also criticized the president's too many words, too little action, too much time. And Yair Golan, who heads the left-wing Democrats party, said, what we saw tonight is not one step away from victory, but the most severe security failure in Israel's history. A prime minister who's abandoning dozens of Israeli citizens in captivity to their deaths is a danger to the security of the country. Meanwhile, a Hamas delegation is set to arrive in Egypt to continue indirect talks with Israel. That they're supposed to arrive today to renew negotiations on a hostage ceasefire deal via Egyptian mediators. A source added that the communication with the Egyptian mediators was renewed with the help of Turkey after Hamas delegation was visiting Ankara last week. The delegation includes Khalil Al-Hayya, who heads the negotiation team and is the placeholder for the former leader Yahya Sinwar, who was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza earlier this year. Yesterday, it was reported that the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar reported progress in ceasefire negotiations with a comprehensive proposal, including full Israeli withdrawal and the release of hostages under discussion, although the outcome still remains uncertain, which is literally the opposite end of the spectrum of what the Security Cabinet in Israel voted on Friday. A senior Hamas official, Osama Hamdan, confirmed the mediators' efforts, but said the movement has not been updated on any developments. And Prime Minister Netanyahu said that one reason the fighting in the Gaza Strip has continued is because of the hostage negotiations. Meanwhile, in the occupied West Bank, there was an eyewitness in Jericho who reported that a 25-year-old man from Nazareth was fatally shot by Israeli forces while he was visiting the city. News reports that there's an investigation that's ongoing. In Israel, Anav Zangaker, the mother of hostage Matan, said after the statement of Netanyahu that the prime minister decided to go to war to destroy the people of Israel, to sacrifice hostages, soldiers, and the value of the country. From now on, it's only civilians. It's on us as civilians to launch a relentless public struggle. And hostages of fallen soldiers called for a nationwide strike on families of hostages and fallen soldiers called for a nationwide strike on August 17th to protest the Gaza City operation and demand the safe release of hostages. Yair Golan, the head of the Democratic Party, will join that strike. There was also an article in Haaretz talking about how some of the left in Israel are calling for very strong actions. An ex-Knesset speaker called on world Jews to take Israel to the International Criminal Court over Gaza war crimes, saying Jews should rebel now. He published on Substack, we need 1 million Jews, less than 10% of the global Jewish population, to file a joint appeal to the ICJ in The Hague. His name is Avram Berg, a former speaker of the Israeli Knesset, and he made this call on Friday to join a collective legal complaint at the ICJ accusing Israel of crimes against humanity in Gaza. The former top center-left politician urged individuals, communities, and Jewish organizations to sign on in what he said would be a historic moral and legal initiative. We must not allow the state of Israel, which systematically inflicts violence upon a civilian population, to speak in our name. We will not allow Judaism to be a cover for crimes. In terms of international responses, Australia has said they're going to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September. So there's a lot to be expected from the world's response at the UNGA next month. The Prime Minister of Australia told reporters after a cabinet meeting that Israel continues to defy international law and has gone beyond the world's worst fears. The UN Security Council condemned Israel's decision to take over the Gaza Strip, saying it risks violating international humanitarian law and endangers the life of the hostages. In Germany, Chancellor Merz said that there will be no change to Germany's core Israel policy, even though they have imposed an arms embargo. Merz defended his decision to halt certain arms exports to Israel, with growing dissent even in the ranks of his own party. The principles of Germany's policy on Israel remain unchanged, he said, will continue to help the country defend itself. However, the German government could not supply weapons to a conflict that would claim the lives of hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties, he added. Berlin disagrees with the Israeli government on this issue, but a friendship must also be able to withstand criticism. That was a quote from Merz. Finally, I'm just going to close with an update on Iran. The International Atomic Energy Agency will go to Iran today, but no visits to nuclear sites are planned. That's according to state media from yesterday. So that's an update of the last 24 hours in the Middle East. Please call, if you are a U.S. citizen, and call your members of Congress to tell them to not send weapons to Israel. You can say not send offensive weapons to Israel because they're being used in violation of U.S. and international law. May God go before us in the name of Christ. Amen.